We have audio.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Why are you mad?
I'm really not mad, actually.
So our daughter brought this up, and we'll discuss the food portion of this more on the food show, I think. But she said to me today that the worst sweet treat is better than the worst savory treat, but that a 10 out of 10 savory treat is better than a 10 out of 10 sweet treat. And I was like, wow, that's like really true and kind of a deep observation, and that's like really impressive, actually. Like, did you come up with that on your own? And she said, yeah, I came up with that on my own as regards to food, but it's based on this thing that's been going around like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, TikTok, whatever, where they're saying that like a 7 out of 10 blonde is hotter than a 7 out of 10 brunette, but that like the hottest brunette is hotter than the hottest blonde. And Tom agreed with it, and I was offended.
Yeah.
So.
No, I totally agree with that. I think blondes are sexier and better immediate turn-ons, and they're lovely and fun, and you know, it's like a candy.
Can you touch that thing? It's like buzzing.
It is?
Yeah, for me it is. You wouldn't know because you don't have headphones on. Can you just try and get it to not touch the other wires?
To get what to touch the other wires?
Try to get that whole box and all the wires on it to not be touching other wires.
How about this?
How about that? That sounds good. I like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Flawless open. So, yes, back to blondes. They are, they are absolutely more sexy and more fun and more cute.
Steve from Merrimack says a blonde is more fun than a kick in the head, but I'd rather have two brunettes.
Brunettes are more quality, I feel. And
I feel like
ultimately,
this is mean.
ultimately,
I feel
the
like
most
that.
beautiful women in the world are brunettes. The most.
Really?
All your gold medal winners.
Who's the gold medal winners that are all brunettes?
Oh, Erin Gray.
Who's Erin Gray? I don't even know who that is.
Steve knows who Erin Gray is. Erin Gray from
It's still
Silver
buzzing.
Spoons. What?
Can you? It's buzzing. Yeah. Thank you. Now it's okay.
Let's see. She was
buzzing. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but we touched all the wires.
How about now? Is it still buzzing?
Now I don't hear it buzzing.
Okay.
Okay.
We good?
We're good.
Okay. Once again, Erin Gray. She's from Silver Spoons and Buck Rogers. Back, whatever her name is, who played Daisy Duke, obviously, was beautiful. Who's the girl from The Notebook?
Rachel McAdams.
Yep, absolutely.
You consider her a brunette?
The girl with the macaw nose.
I feel like she's spiritually a redhead.
The girl with the macaw nose from the Style thing with Anna Wintour.
Oh, I love her. Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway, absolutely.
She's really beautiful. Are you a Monica Bellucci person?
I think so.
feel she's
I don't
in
really
the
know
top.
her. I think so. But like all your like solid like masterpiece women are dark hair.
I mean, I get that, but like Marilyn Monroe's a blonde.
Yes, and she's good in the sack, hot, and that's great.
Why do I feel so attacked by
this? That's not attacked. It's a good compliment.
I feel like there's an insult to blondes being made here.
Who's never been a brown-haired person. You know, I was a blonde kid, and then like dark. Dirty blonde.
No, I understand, but you're talking about the hotness of women, so it doesn't really attack you if you say that blondes aren't
Elizabeth
hot.
Taylor. There you go. Steve from Merrimack knows this. And yeah, it just so happens. But the blondes are all the hot ones. The blondes own 87% of hotness, and they just do. Like Dana Perino, Heather Thomas. Is it buzzing?
No, but I'm suspicious that it's like being weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just because you don't have headphones on that I feel like I want you to have the headphones on more than I want you to have
Check
the head
one.
on.
Okay.
Do you hear it okay? Okay.
Everything's always been fine for me.
Because you didn't have headphones.
It's the other part of, blondes.
Blondes are great.
I'll give you here's another one. Like Rashida, who's the girl who was in The Office, Quincy Jones's daughter?
Oh, I know who you mean. Is it Rashida Jones?
Rashida Jones.
Yeah.
She's like a perfect specimen of a human being. You're never gonna find a blonde like that. but you're not. I'm sorry about that. I mean, but they're the whole.
What is this?
No, I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. The blondes will get all the guys, and all the guys will have affairs with blondes, and don't worry about it. But like if just like talking about like pure thoroughbreds, as my friend would say. Yeah, I mean all the masterpieces are, Sophia
Super
Loren.
Max is Buck Roger, Aaron Gray, Claudia Cardinale.
How do I know her from? Was she in
I don't know.
Steve? There's a couple, at least one on the
Kate
original.
Beckinsale.
Okay, and
Why does everyone hate
hold
blondes?
on. And there's one, at least one, Steve, from the original Battlestar Galactica. A couple of those babes were like ridiculous, and so not blondes, brunette. So just,
we have to try so hard to even get you guys to like us. It's so unfortunate.
no, everybody likes a blonde, Alice. That's the reason I spent like a decade going to Chicago every 4 months is because I visited my friends in Chicago in the late 90s, like 99. And we went to a place called North Avenue Beach. And North Avenue Beach has this big beach club. And these a set of blondes, including a lead blonde, approached me and just talked to me and said like, "Oh, how are you doing? Everything? Are you from Boston?" And, like if somehow they heard me talking or whatever, if you talk fast to Midwesterners, they assume you're from Boston. And I thought like these are three blonde, gorgeous ladies in bikinis talking to me freely, like which would never happen in Massachusetts. Because if you're pretty in Massachusetts, at least in Boston, the rule used to be you had to be like a cold, bitchy jerk. But no, it was like blondes falling from the sky, and so like in Chicago, I dated two blonde women.
You've mostly dated like blondes and redheads. I feel like you haven't been a big dark hair.
Right, and there are some women who like,
which made me think you liked blondes, but now I feel like attacked.
I love them. No, the first Susan from Malden, Alice, who was my.
But is it because I'm a 7 out of 10 blonde, so I'm just beating the 7 out of 10 brunettes that liked you?
I was an apprentice to Susan from Malden. I told you about her. She actually was somebody who had kind of very light brown hair, but she knew since she literally, like I said, Alice, had been intimate with 3,000 or 4,000 men in Malden. Most of the young men under 18. If you're a man in or around Malden, Massachusetts, right now, and you grew up. Like you were 20 years old in around 1993, you probably slept with Susan. There was no doubt about it. And she was not shy about it. Yeah, I was with him. Oh my God. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I was with him for a while. Yeah, I was with him and his friend. Like, it was ridiculous. And of course, I was from Winchester, so I was so blown away. But she knew because of her behavior and because of how hospitable she was to men. And as a matter of fact, I think she used that term. I said to her one time, I said, Susan, why did you feel the need to give yourself over to like everybody in your class? And she was like, she'd get this pretty proper face, and she said, I'm hospitable. And of course I loved her because like she had everything. She was psychotic, violent, and of course all that stuff. But she knew, Alice, she knew that she should be a blonde. So she went like really light, bad dye job blonde because that made sense. So some people just know that too, you know.
What am I? What does that make me? I need to know where I fit
you're different. You're a natural blonde, but you're also a little bit different. See, you're a multi-tool player, which makes you dangerous because you're blonde, but you're also nerdy. So that's a deadly combination. And guys, as much as they want a chick who's going to wear a baseball shirt and like a baseball hat on a Saturday morning and wear no makeup, a guy's version of no makeup,
right?
Which is like really like a lot
of makeup.
Yeah. Guys also love a geeky hot girl. They're all for that. So
is this a good entree into the Mark Cuban interview?
Yes, let's do that as a matter of fact.
Because I haven't seen that much attention on this.
You don't want my fedora back on?
No, it's fine. I want you to listen to this interview, and I want you to know if the audio.
Well, we should start. Let's start where we said we were going to start. Let's start first of all with people cracking, the left cracking, and we'll begin it with the fact that this is so freaking beautiful. Oh God, we almost did a show Friday and Saturday because this was so much awesome stuff is happening. So as you may know, the LA Times decided to, and there's all sorts of just hand pearl clutching about this. LA Times decided not to
endorse a presidential
candidate. Exactly. Because essentially they don't like the fact that Kamala doesn't like Hamas enough. Essentially, that's it. But so the left is angry, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, this if ever, the ascension of Hitler is about to happen. If ever you need to endorse, it's now." So the people are very angry that the LA Times did this.
People resigned. People resigned from the
Exactly.
LA Times, and other people in the media industry, including, like, say, Jen Rubin, like, cheered them on. Like, good job, guys. Where are the rest of the resignations? Let's go. We all need to drop out and support the bold reporters who don't support the decision of their evil billionaire management to not endorse a presidential candidate.
Too beautiful. Jen Rubin saying this. Jen Rubin, of course, with the Washington Post. And then just beautifully, the Washington Post is just about ready to endorse Kamala when Jeffrey Bezos gets on the horn and kills the endorsement, and the Post is now not endorsing anybody either.
Oh, this was Friday. This was the happiest day.
Yes.
I was enjoying Twitter so much this day. And it's like, I don't know. I know we've gone back and forth on, like, how confident we should be that Trump is going to win. I know that the movement has been towards Trump. I don't want to, like, be overconfident that Trump's going to win. I do feel like it's moving in his direction. But regardless of whether at the end of the day he wins or Kamala wins, Friday was such a happy day just because the freak out amongst all the best people ever just made me so happy that the Washington Post didn't endorse a presidential candidate. It wasn't like they went out there and they were like, yes, we're endorsing Trump for president. This is it. It wasn't like, Jeffrey Bezos, but supposedly, so the reporting goes that they had the endorsement already written up and ready to go for Kamala, and Jeff Bezos said, no, we're not endorsing. So instead, they had to write we're getting back to the paper's roots of not endorsing anyone, and this is the right thing to do. People want the news from us and not for us to tell them who to vote for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which seems like Jeff Bezos probably reads the writing on the wall of the way that this election is going, is probably like what that is telling everyone. But just that on its own freaked them out so much. The democracy dies in darkness freak out. Then, of course, all the good liberals on Twitter are tweeting about how they're canceling their Post subscriptions, which is awesome, especially since the Biden administration just came out with new regulations to make it easier to cancel online subscriptions.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Can you imagine the bitchiness? Stephen King and all these people saying, I'm now unsubscribing. Oh, it's such a bitchy move. It's such
Mark Hamill no longer has the Washington Post subscription. Because, of course, he did. Because, like, if I were Mark Hamill, I would not have I don't even have a Washington Post subscription now. And I, follow the news all the time. If I were Mark Hamill, if you were a famous actor whose primary hits had been in the 70s and 80s, would you have subscriptions to newspapers?
I don't think so. So wait a second. Do you think that some of these people subscribe to unsubscribe?
No, I mean, I think Mark Hamill had a subscription because I think he's a lunatic. But, like, I think that if you had a Washington Post subscription to start with, you're an insane person.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Other than the Burn Barrel Patreon and whatever else we're offering, nothing is worth subscribing to. And I think, although we do subscribe to Wall Street Journal, National Review, commentary.
Wall Street Journal, National Review, commentary, I think Fifth Column.
Fifth Column podcast,
yeah.
I think.
I mean, there's a few, but
yeah.
I've toyed with the idea. I kind of want to get the Nate Silver subscription.
Oh, by the way, we have a new camera in the.
They've seen it. The people online have seen the new camera that took us an extra 30 minutes to set up. So I hope the extra overhead shot of me drinking my Bloody Mary that Tom made me in hopes that it'll make me feel less sick. I hope that that's worth it because that took an extra 30 minutes of showtime to set up. So
I'm getting feeling the guys will say it's worth it.
I don't know that it's worth it.
It's the eye in the sky, also. So the best thing is Jennifer Rubin, like she said, was cheerleading people to to quit the LA Times, and then just beautifully, the Washington Post refuses to endorse, and so Jenna Rubin's sitting there and is looking like an a-hole because she's not resigning, obviously.
Right, of course. So she signed on to the letter that said she doesn't approve of the Post decision. They're all, like, in an open revolt now, which is hilarious to me. So they all the, like, important opinion people, like Jen Rubin, they all wrote this letter that they signed on to saying they disagree, that this is the wrong time to decide you're not going to endorse presidential candidates and all this stuff. And I actually tweeted this out. The cartoonists did a cartoon that's just a painted black square that's entitled "Democracy Dies in Darkness." That's appearing on the editorial page.
Beautiful.
That's the cartoon. That's the cartoon.
That's the levity on the paper. I can't bear to draw anything today.
I'm just going to paint a black swatch.
Democracy
dies.
The people who work on the other side of the building who are listen to think tanks and, try to mull things over for the general direction of the paper made a decision that I don't like. So I'm not doing my job today. I was the editorial page editor of the Boston Herald. I've been I've written stuff, I've been there.
So I'm curious, were you influenced at all by the ownership decisions when you were an editorial page editor in your endorsements?
No, I wasn't, but I was already kind of aligned. So I was already my politics and Pat Purcell's politics, the publisher. And
what about when you endorsed Maura Healey?
Oh, that. Did we really? No, I was coerced.
You endorsed Maura Healey.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, well, that's the editorial board, Alice. I'm just one board member. I don't want to talk about it. I'll just say this: there was one time when, towards the end of the Herald, towards the end, when it was decided that the safest thing to do, considering George Floyd had happened, or maybe that wasn't George Floyd. Anyway, it was right around there. Yeah, it was. Is to endorse a diverse group of candidates. Even though I almost quit because I was made to write a couple of endorsements. Oh, I don't even want to get there. Yeah. I'll just say that I wrote a ringing endorsement of Ayanna Presley, which freaking I thought about just tossing myself off the top of the building. But that was different. That's when everything gets corrupted, and that was like right about the time it was sliding into the hedge fund.
But so you're saying it's not necessarily a pure process to start
necessarily,
with. Before Jeff Bezos got involved, it wasn't necessary.
Before that it was, but I mean it was pretty much. And there are some things if let's say you can use the editorial board or op-eds to give a nod to things if you want to. So for instance, there was a mention of some watermelon toothpaste in the Boston Herald at one point, and Obama stealing it. And I think that probably some soft nerf editorials were written to try to appease to people who maybe whatever. But I didn't write those ones. But I was there for that. But I'll tell you a time when it was when I thoroughly abused the system was when I was in Lowell, and we endorsed Andrew Yang. Now that was actually, I meant that. That was because I thought because he was a new kind of politics.
You just liked him.
I liked him, exactly. So we endorsed Andrew Yang among Democrats for
in the presidential primary.
In a primary, exactly. But then once Yang dropped out, I immediately endorsed the shit out of Bloomberg. And that was for the sales department. that was absolutely.
He was spending money.
He was spending a ton of money. I loved the sales manager, who was a great guy there, and I thought maybe we'll do him a solid here. That was absolutely it. So there you go. But also, I mean, if you want to really know my heart, I wouldn't have really cared to endorse any Democrat, but you have to. So yes.
But you liked Andrew Yang.
I liked Andrew Yang. I still like Andrew Yang. Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. I do.
And actually, once again, to loop us back, it turns out that Tom's inability to land the plane is actually a thing that Trump calls the weave.
Right, but he brags about the weave.
But so I'm gonna turn us back towards where I want to go right now, which is that I do want to talk about this Mark Cuban Kamala Harris interview that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about. A lot of people talking about Trump on Rogan, which was awesome, which I watched, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was actually on Andrew Yang's page that I happened across this Mark Cuban Kamala Harris interview that I haven't seen talked about a lot, which is such an embarrassment on so many levels.
I watched Shark.
And I'm embarrassed that Andrew Yang shared it. Is everybody dumb?
So let's just talk about people. It's done on a sound stage or an empty stage. Mm-hmm. The stage is very bare. There are two very contemporary chairs on the stage with two contemporary pillows, and it's a big like Oriental rug is there. It's
Mm-hmm.
very kind of a threadbare, very cosmopolitan. Um, what's it called? Shaggy chic. What's it called? Shaggy.
It's not shabby chic, but I
But
get what you're saying. That is
shabby,
shabby chic.
shabby chic. It's kind of shabby chic in a sense. But
Shabby chic is a specific thing.
okay, but that's how I would describe it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's very soundstage. It's very
It's highly produced.
well, right, but I said just the look and feel is very Warhol.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very Andy Warhol. It's very progressive, etc. And it's highly produced, as Alice has said. It's highly produced. There's all sorts of edits and in quick shots. There's moving camera. The camera is moving, which is I think supposed to tell us that like the spontaneity of the whole thing. Of course, it's not spontaneous. It's fine, but
It's like the most scripted thing that's been out this entire cycle.
And it's very interesting because Cuban is sitting there. He's sitting effeminately with oversized white sneakers. He actually like kind of looked like Maura Healey dresses. And Cuban's there with a like tight jacket, tiny man gut showing. He's got like the Emhoff gut, which is like right. If you're gonna be fat, be fat. Be Shattuck fat, you know.
So I love you. You embrace.
You. And so like, and he's got his
Guys. How do you like Tom's lederhosen? By the way,
Thank
in the
you.
chat, I've seen no commentary.
Because you took my hat away.
Oh, that's why. I'm sure that's why.
Oh, like this works, right?
Oh yeah, totally. You
And
look
great. so Cuban's got his like terrible hair dye job, soy sauce hair dye.
Ugh.
And he's totally prostrating himself just physically because this is very. And Kamala is Kamala. She's what she normally is. She looks like she belongs in a
soundstage.
right. Because she's handsome that way. Like what's the great She looks like she belongs in a Williams Sonoma working there.
Mm-hmm.
She's as elegant as all the great equipment in there, you know. So it's so different than the Rogan thing with Trump. Rogan thing and Trump is actually two dudes talking for 3 hours. And because Trump has a shark's duodenum, he can do it all day. He doesn't realize whether if he's in there for 3 minutes or 3 hours. He doesn't have it. And Rogan and theirs was so natural. It was actually, if you haven't heard it, I would actually urge my friends, and I've seen a lot of this. I've started I've started to triage some of my friends from Melrose in.
I saw you comment on that post about the camps.
Yes, because I'm going to do camps. Because some of these friends are Melrose. When I used to do Melrose Fat
Boot camp, yeah.
These ladies were became my friends. All progressives, all Liz Warren types, but they're good people. And I see them saying that we're going to be put in camps soon, etc. So I'm like trying to talk to someone to say, calm down, you're going to be put in camps. I know the guy, so you're not going to be put in camps. At least you guys aren't. Your Wakefield equivalent, they're all in camps. But so I'm trying to just make them feel comfortable, etc. But they're so convinced that it's going to be the end of times and it's the end of the world. Why did I go on this tangent? What was the point of this?
I don't know. Mark Cuban, Kamala Harris.
Mark Cuban.
She belongs on a soundstage. She looks good in that environment.
Right.
I don't know how you got on this tangent.
So I'm just trying
But Tom and all the other suburban ladies have been on Facebook talking
right.
about
I've been trying to help them because I'm noticing that they're starting to come apart, and they're very worried, etc. And I'm trying to calm people down. But and so that like this Cuban. Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying. That's right. So what I want to do now is tell them all that they should watch the Rogan thing with Trump, because you get to, after 3 hours of Trump with Rogan, you actually get to see exactly his mind making the sausage. You're actually going to see it all, like how it works, how he thinks, etc. And there's nothing Hitlerian about the guy.
No.
He's very interesting. He's actually worried about the whales, among other things. So I would suggest you watch it. If there's somebody who will watch it, just watch it. At the very worst, they'll probably come off thinking Trump's stupid. At the best, they'll be a little assuaged that you know what, this is how he thinks about stuff. Okay, so we'll want to listen to a little bit of Cuban. Should we start from the beginning?
Yes, I want to hear from Cuban and Harris. Because I assume this was put out, they both tweeted it this weekend in order to be some kind of like answer to the Trump Rogan thing. Don't you feel that? Like, oh, Kamala can also sit down and have an off the cuff conversation with a hip person, right? Like, didn't you get the vibe that they were trying to do that?
Oh, totally.
Shark Tank all the time.
See, I knew I liked you.
And then I often, depending on, because, there are a lot of reruns, I'll look it up to see how the company's doing.
Well, hopefully mine are doing well. Hey.
She was walking in.
Good. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So excited to talk to you.
I am excited to talk with you.
So I know it's a grind with an NBA season going city to city. So what does it feel like? I mean, just physically.
Long days. I start every day. I work out every morning.
And what's your workout?
Elliptical. And then I go all day long.
And are you just exhausted at the end of the day?
Your body doesn't lie to you when you first wake up in the morning.
Yep.
And then your brain kicks in and says, oh, everything will be fine, right?
That workout just gets you going.
And it gets me going every morning.
So here's the other question I got.
Okay.
So he is like glowing like a puppy. He is so, and it bothers me because I'm like, how much money does this dude lose on businesses? That's all it takes? Like that her pitch, that you work in the elliptical? Oh, and you get going? Like, aren't you waiting for... If this blows her away, what would J.D. Vance's, like, multi-level, like, narratives do to him? Or not?
We've talked about tech and innovation, how important it is to the economy and just dominating globally, right? Do you ever geek out at all?
All the time.
So tell me about that.
So my mother was a scientist, right? So I grew up as a kid going to the lab. I grew up seeing her have a passion about, she wanted to end breast
I heard that she had trouble buying a house in the middle class.
Cancer. She wanted to find a cure, and she did make breakthroughs in breast cancer research.
That's amazing.
And that's where the source of my geeking
It all
out,
comes from, right? But so now I got to ask.
So that's
You'll
why,
notice she never says anything that she's actually geeky about.
Right.
My mom was a scientist.
Right, which is why I went to law school. Because I always breast cancer law school. And I tried 300
cases. That's why
cases.
I'm in the Senate.
I mean 100 cases. I mean 60 cases. I mean 30 cases.
I was at your speech in Pittsburgh, and you talked about it took only a year to build the Empire State Building, and that you said that you were going to cut permitting, you were going to cut the time for licenses,
the red
for
tape.
all the red tape. So how do we take that?
It is funny because that's a good thing to hit because you want to take from Trump, and he's Mr. Cut Red Tape. The only thing is she works for Red Tape Inc.
Right.
Like California is Red Tape Inc. And as the Attorney General, I can imagine the class action lawsuits that she was, a part of, or all the lawsuits, the shakedowns of all these companies in industries that she was a part of, so that they would always be on their guard, always, triple trial protecting the Tylenol.
And use it to cut the deficit.
So part of it is we cannot be rote in terms of how we think about deficits to say government spends too much. Because I think that is overly simplistic.
I agree.
We have to ask, are we...
Then why did you say any of that? Why did we say that you cannot be rote in terms of the way we think the government spends too much? Just to use rote? Is that why?
Yeah.
Because
this is a rehearsed answer that somebody wrote for her. That's
Jesus
why.
Christ.
Spending it in a smart way such that we are yielding a return on that investment.
Wow. Did she coin that? Return on investment? I wish there were a way to make to initialize it, to make an acronym out of it.
Like a regular business.
But this is
Just
exactly
like a regular business. Wow. She understands business totally, I would say.
I get all that right. So here's kind of the angle I always look at tariffs on. I've known Donald Trump 25 years. He used to be okay on trade policy, but over the last 25 years, he's just lost it.
I don't think he pays attention to the details, and you can't be president of the United States
Unless you pay attention to the details.
Yeah, that's...
He finished her sandwiches. He finished her sentence for her. And you can't be president of the United States. The thing, of course, that kind of the overarching voice of this is that, like, Trump did all the stuff that was good and then you did all the stuff that was bad.
Right.
That's the point. Like, at the end of the day, that's it.
I don't care who pays attention to the details.
Right.
And by the way, like, the tariffs that they're bitching about, like, she left all those tariffs in place because she also thinks they're good, so...
Right. And I don't care about his rote level, whatever that is. Does anybody really even know what rote means, actually? But, and it's funny because... And actually, Bill Maher talked about this today, too. People are angry that when you try to tell them, and the left tries to tell us that that he's going to be a dictator and he's a fascist and he's going to be Mussolini as soon as he's elected, and the Washington guys used to be with him, but now he's going to have all Steve Bannon and Roger Stone, and so he's going to have all the real uncut Nazis are going to be here this time, so they're going to. And then they say, and they did this on Bill Maher's show, they said, yeah, but Trump voters will tell you, oh, he had good 4 years, oh, he had a good 4 years, oh, he had a good 4 years. And they're not understanding that he came in on, that was Obama's economy. So now Trump took Obama's economy, but delivered Biden the terrible inflation. But the
Which
thing
didn't
is,
start until
but
half a year after he left office,
right.
obviously.
But the whole point is, like, they said, Bill Maher said this weekend, he said, so what did Trump do? Like, what did he do when he first got? You think he did day one, like, just did something, changed everything? It's like, yeah, he did. He was totally a red tape cutting guy. Remember?
He was a red tape cutting guy. He talked about this on the Rogan show, that he's talked to business leaders, and the biggest piece was not even the tax cuts, but the cutting of regulation.
Totally, all the regulation. That's all. That's immediately what he did. And of course, he's a guy who is stifled smothered by regulation in his private businesses.
Right.
To get anything built.
Oh, they're going to get to Trump and whether or not he's ever run a business momentarily.
Right.
In this.
But it's amazing. And if you talk to that, we actually had an editorial board meeting, as a matter of fact, with the president of a college. It's about 9, maybe even almost 10 years ago. Maybe it was 10 years ago. A college in New England who talked about what's killing them is they had tuitions and, like, they're still making money, and the college is very expensive, and they still manage to. This guy's the president of the college, of course, because he's a good fundraiser. Good fundraiser means you get to put cool buildings up and cool walls up and the cool quad up and impress parents, and that's the brochure, and then you can shake down the parents and shake down government loans and this. So he talked about that the thing that frightened them the most and hindered progress the most was the Dear Colleague letters. Mm-hmm. The Department of Education would send letters, it's during Obama, saying Dear Colleague, and that would freeze them up. And this guy said this off the record, by the way. He did not want us writing this up because he didn't want to be on the Obama shit list. So, Dear Colleague, it has come to our attention, or as we strive for more equity or equitable whatever, we're going to ask that an audit be done about this or that, etc., to make sure we're equitable. Lily-led better bullshit. And it just froze the colleges because it would curtail fundraising. They would budget-wise, they would have to have an entire legal department pouring through this stuff to do the to go through the exercise.
Well, yeah, and that's what Trump said on Rogan. Is he said, like, you don't think of this stuff, of these regulations, as having a dollar cost, but they do. And he said, I talked to the businesses, and what they all told me is that they would take the regulatory cuts over the tax cuts any day because it's a bigger cost savings to them than the tax cuts are, which obviously the tax cuts are already a big cost savings to them, right?
Of course.
So, but I don't know. I think we should listen to more Mark and Kamala here because it's I don't know. I haven't seen anybody talking about this interview really, but I find it incredible that both the campaign and he were tweeting this out like this is great for her.
Wants to, just give speeches in random places for random reasons, but
He's running for president, actually. He's giving speeches in random places for random reasons.
Well, she's saying, like, it's okay for him to not know the details if he's just going to give random speeches in random places. But if you're running for president, it's important that you understand the details, like me, Kamala Harris, who's a very detail-oriented and nuts and bolts in the weeds
so
person.
gaslighty. Can you imagine, 6 months ago, none of her speechwriters, none of the comms team would dare write this. They're like, we can't write that. That's the thing about her.
She doesn't know any details about anything.
It's like them writing for Trump a speech about how Kamala's going to grab him by the pussy. It's like, sir, we can write a lot of things, but we're not writing that. That one we specifically can't write.
Talk about such significant policy like tariffs, much less foreign policy. He is applying a machete when a scalpel is what's necessary.
It makes no sense to me whatsoever. To me, I think Donald Trump is the Grinch that stole Christmas. This time next year, we're going to be thinking about Christmas presents for all of our kids. And if he puts a 60% tariff on everything from China, those prices are going up. And now all of a sudden, your vision of everything you wanted to have for your kids at Christmas is gone. Donald Trump just crushed it. And it's not just crushing people's Christmases. Those small companies that support communities, now
Can you
all of a sudden,
imagine?
not only did their cost
The inflation administration is now attacking Donald Trump for hypothetically crushing people's Christmases by making Christmas presents too expensive.
Isn't that amazing? It's like
Excuse me? Hang on. We went from no inflation under Trump, and we should play JD Vance on Meet the Press later because he went after her, on Kristen Walker, on the inflation thing on that show. But like, we went from no inflation to decades record high inflation under the Obama Biden Harris administration for years, and it's like coming down now. But now you're gonna tell us like, oh well, Donald Trump's gonna make Christmas presents too expensive for your kids. Like, did you miss the last 3 years? Like, have you been here? Did you buy Christmas presents the last 3 years? Where have you been? It's an insane, weird projection. But yeah, go ahead. Keep going on that. Donald Trump stole Christmas.
Let's go up 60%, but their businesses were just shot.
Right.
He is going to put who knows how many small businesses out of business.
Goldman Sachs, Moody's, Wall Street Journal most recently, 16 Nobel laureates have all examined our policies. Mine, as has been reviewed, will strengthen the economy. His will weaken it. It will
I think this is so damaging. It is the last refuge of a scoundrel is to go mention all the Nobel Prize winners. That is not speaking. If you're trying to win like Trump voters or middle of the road Trump voters, one thing you do not mention anymore is the elite establishment class.
Right. All the experts support me.
Every writer on the New York Times op-ed council said that I just Nobel Prize winners. Barack Obama won a Nobel Prize for what, Alice? You remember what he won for?
Like he won like the second he became president for like causing
he won
peace, right?
He won before.
Oh.
Right. They gave him one as being a Nobel Prize winning president.
For the rhetoric that made things more peaceful.
Right, exactly. How did the world fare after Barack Obama became president, by the way? How is Syria doing? How's the refugee crisis
terrible.
in Europe doing?
And that's like the thing is like we get to this whole... This is the debate, right? Like, how involved should the United States be overseas, right? And what obligations do we have to people from other countries, particularly countries or regions where we've intervened and done stuff militarily, where these people are fleeing their homes and need a place to go? Like, what obligation do we have? Well, then it matters what our foreign policy is, right? Like, that impacts our immigration policy. Because if we have an immigration policy that causes people, if we have a foreign policy that causes people to be fleeing their homes because we've destabilized regions and we've caused people to need to flee their homelands where they want to really be and try to come live here, then we do have some sort of moral obligation. And that's why we should have a foreign policy that doesn't destabilize regions and cause people to need to flee where they want to live in order to come here, right? Like, shouldn't that be our MO?
Yes.
Is not to cause stuff like that. But a lot of that happened under Barack Obama. It stopped under Trump and it came back under Biden. And the reason for that is because Donald Trump, and once again, I urge people to go listen to the Rogan interview, is because he was a leader that on foreign policy, other leaders respected.
Yes.
They were afraid of him in a good way. They didn't want to cross him.
Mm-hmm. They didn't know what he did.
And what he said carried weight.
Don't you remember in 2016, and this still, I get this sometimes still, in 2016, when he'd be ranting and raving during his rallies, and he was like throwing water on people in the front row, and he was like having a good time. Like every once in a while, he'd get a hold of a baby. And I was like, I'm voting for this guy, but there's a non-zero chance that he's going to chuck that kid into the crowd. You never...
You don't think Donald Trump's a baby guy?
He might actually be a baby guy, but there was part of me back then... There's part of me that... Yeah, definitely. Maybe because I would have chucked the baby in the crowd. Part of me was like always like, hey, maybe we don't do that. There were times, But, like, he makes foreign leaders, of course, feel uncertain about him.
Of course.
Because you never know. He doesn't fit in any box they're used to. When you're dealing with Justin Trudeau, okay, I see. Here is a pussy. Who looks at himself in the mirror a lot and has a weird obsession with being in blackface. It's fine.
How many times, Tom, as a registered racist of the Rush Limbaugh listening talk radio elites, how many photos are there out there of you that we could uncover of you in blackface?
There are none.
I mean, I don't get it. I don't get
I've
why
never
there
done
are
that.
any pictures of anyone in blackface because that's insane.
Well, right. And even if it was acceptable in 1984, it's just
there's just no pictures of you in blackface.
there's not. And there's also
There's
no
likewise
pictures of me.
no pictures of me in blackface. I've also been called a racist on the internet.
Right.
And I'm a registered Republican, and I
Oh,
voted for Trump.
You
and
wait till the Halloween show, Alice. You wait till the Halloween show.
Well, I'm not going to recolor my skin.
There's going to be a problem from the Halloween show.
But
yeah.
But my point is
never
that
dressed
there's
in
no
college on a frat party as a Klansman. As funny as that would be.
I mean, who would? Insane people.
I love how that governor, I forgot his name.
Northam.
Yeah, wasn't sure. It could be me.
I don't remember if I was the one in blackface or the one in the Klansman
I'd rather
outfit.
not
It's
answer.
really hard to tell.
And remember, he's like, but I could do a mean moonwalk, and the press is like, can you do it now? He's like, should I? And his wife was like, get the fuck off the stage.
Are all Democrats just totally unhinged people?
Okay, here's Vance on inflation.
Senators, inflation is coming down. Let me ask you about some of what we've heard here.
25% higher, Kristen, than it was when Donald Trump left the Oval Office due to Americans.
By the way,
this is an important issue.
Pause it for a sec, because
you heard her trying to stifle the answer.
Yeah, because she was trying to do one of these fly-by-night fact checks, where he said something about how groceries are too high and inflation and whatever, and so this was she was trying to just real quick fact check him,
yes.
And then move on to the next question, but he didn't let it go, so he brought it back and argued with her over her fact check,
which is awesome.
Senators, inflation is coming down. Let me ask you about some of what we've heard here.
25% higher, Kristen, than it was when Donald Trump left the Oval Office due to Americans. This is an important issue. If Americans feel like inflation is a solved problem, then maybe they should vote for Kamala Harris. If you feel like the price of groceries, if you feel like the price of housing is too high, if you feel like inflation is not over, then Donald Trump is your man.
Right. There's no doubt folks believe that groceries are too high. Just making the point that inflation has come down.
I agree with those
folks believe that they're too high. Folks believe they're too high. By the way,
there's no doubt folks believe the price of groceries is too high.
By the way, folks believe it. You know what? Because we've seen the polls and people are misguided. So there's got to be a reason why they're not voting for her. But it's also, there is rarely a time in a campaign when anybody would ever suggest that you tell people that they can vote for the other person.
Oh yeah.
That means,
never.
To me, that means that Vance is seeing something that he likes.
Totally.
In the polling.
We should, before we play the rest of Cuban and Kamala, before we get to Rogan, we should do the shot chat, and we should move over to the Patreon side because we're 40 plus minutes in right now. Ooh, what?
Steve from Merrimack. Oh yeah.
What?
I mean, don't you worry, you'll see. In a second. Okay.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Two things. One, I was disappointed but not surprised by the sound cuts that you played from Tyler Perry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of his movies at all. I think I've watched two of the non-Medea ones, and they're both pretty bad. But I always admired him because he's a real American success story. I don't think he came from very much. And he sort of built this empire entirely on his own. He's
100%.
He's his own sort of mogul, like studio mogul.
Yeah.
So it's a little disappointing to hear him, spouting the usual, or to sound like a pablum puking liberal.
Alice, who used to say pablum puking liberal?
Is that a William F. Buckley thing?
It is not. It's funny you say that. Funny. A lot of people say the opposite of William F. Buckley. Morton Downey Jr. Do you know who that is?
Morton Downey Jr.?
You don't know who that is?
No, I don't.
Morton Downey Jr. was actually huge the year you were born, 1987. Wow. Morton Downey Jr. was a radio guy.
I wasn't paying that much attention.
He's a radio guy out of Sacramento. I guess he probably had a syndicated radio show, because then he did a TV show, which I think hit that summer, because I was in Austin Prep when it happened, and like we all got taken. Young men got taken by it. He used to scream at people, call them pablum-puking liberals, chain smoke on TV.
Wow.
He was unhinged. He was a crazy man, but he was a phenom for like a year, and then he claimed he got beat up by Klansmen in some restroom somewhere, and then he went sideways. He would have been right next to Donald Trump on every campaign stop. He and Roger Stone would be. He died. He died. I think. I mean, he was chain smoking for a long time, so I think maybe that's what did it. Might have been some other stuff.
Wow.
But he was. Oh, he was fantastic. And once he left his huge radio show in Sacramento, it was vacated, and they need somebody to fill in.
And Rush Limbaugh came in?
Exactly. So they had Rush fill in for him, and then Rush took over and ruled the world. But
I still kind of admire the guy. But anyway. And then the other thing was, I don't know, I started recently listening to Tucker's podcast, but I don't listen every episode. I'm more guest-driven. But I don't know if you guys listened to the interview with Harmeet Dillon, where
I have seen people say to listen to this.
I have too. I've get callers too who say that.
2.5 hours of her describing Kamala Harris's resume, and it is freaking devastating. It should be required listening for anybody who wants to find out more about Lady K. But man, that woman is impressive too, Harmeet Dillon. She is so sharp. I really admire her. Anyway, just thought I'd add that. Thank you.
I'll listen to that because I do like her very much, and she's interesting to me.
And I like the Tucker Show, and I like that he interviews unconventional guests a lot.
Yeah, he interviews all the forbidden people, like we've talked about before. That's like the Rogan thing. We talked about that before,
including people that we don't even like Holocaust deniers and stuff.
Right.
But it's better to have somebody out there who's willing to interview all these people.
By the way,
not.
Alice,
You know what I mean?
It's like Milo now is like having a nuclear family. Is everybody? I want him back because I did like Milo.
I like Milo.
Yeah.
He should have a nuclear family.
He was never on the show. We just read his stuff, right?
You took the picture with him at the RNC right before he got knocked off Twitter, and then he was like gone for a long time.
He was a fun guy. God, he was a fun guy.
Yeah, Milo's great. But I mean, I like a lot of these people. Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy Tucker. I enjoy. How to put this? I like a lot about the Tucker Show.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. We're not Andrew Tate guys. Whole thing is not really for us.
I'm not going to really get into that. But I do like Tucker. And like you say, Steve, I'm guest-driven.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to see him talk to certain guests.
Yeah, and we just watched the Tucker, didn't we? This weekend has been such a blur. But Harmeet Dillon also,
we love her, obviously.
Yeah, she gave me a lengthy DM about something I posited to her, either in DM or on Twitter. And she gave me a lengthy DM. Which is like means she's kind of manic, she's like so like driven that she's gonna put out every fire, even like me with 8,000 followers, whatever. But it was good, and I appreciated it.
I like her a lot.
I like her a lot too. Kind of attractive. Can we agree?
I mean, is that not your only qualifier for who you think is great?
Some women are not necessarily all that attractive, although she was. Like a good example is Camille Paglia was like just a gorgeous woman, and now she's just a little older. But her personality is ridiculously turned on. It always has been. She's a lesbian, and I don't think I have a chance. I bet you Steve agrees with Camille Paglia. Just a freaking force. Do you know Camille Paglia? Oh yes.
I mean a little.
She's like one of the original badasses.
I mean I know of her.
Okay, let's see. Charlie from Bitch Witch, Alice. This is you.
We like Charlie from Bitch Witch.
Coined that term. This blonde tart over here coined that term.
We like Charlie.
Hey, Tom and Alice.
Hey.
Just want to call and say that when I moved up here in the late 90s, it was a completely different town than it is now. When my child went to school, her and her friends decided in their infinite wisdom when they went to their Washington, D.C. trip that they would all buy Donald J. Trump red MAGA bucket hats and wear them for their school trip, which they did. Nobody said anything. Alice, you'll like this one. She wanted to do a project on Annie Oakley.
Ooh. Oh, I love
that. And I told her there was no way that she could do a project on Annie Oakley because how can you do a project on a sharpshooter without bringing in a gun?
Ooh.
Or mentioning a gun in any way, shape, or form. Her teacher, who I would not name because if I remembered her, the backlash would probably not be good, let her do the presentation, make a gun out of paper, as long as she promised to destroy it when she was done with the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way it was not too long ago. It seems to have been going downhill and getting far more gentrified over the past few years. Thanks.
Yeah, all these places have, and gentrified is the right word for it. The same thing happened with Melrose. Like all the old timers moved out, all the World War II generation people, and now it's what it is. It's just swept up. Charlie Kirk banned from Ipswich, but not this Charlie, Alice. Charlie from Ipswich.
Charlie from Ipswich.
The last remaining Charlie.
Yeah.
I listened to that entire Joe Rogan Donald Trump interview.
Your thoughts, Dr.
This
Cheswick?
morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good.
Yeah.
Joe tried to rein him in a bit. He had to. But it was good. Last check, it had 20 million views.
I know.
20 million views. Also, have you guys ever eaten at the Pizza Bar in Tewksbury? And would you recommend it?
We have not. I don't think, to be honest, is it the Pizza Barn or Pizza Bar?
I don't think we've been there, but I don't know.
No, I also have never eaten in Tewksbury.
I don't think so.
We've never, no, yeah. You and I have never, as a team, eaten in Tewksbury whatsoever. The Pizza Bar. Looks good. No, we haven't. Alice and I tried to get Alice to come down. Did we ever eat at that beautiful place in the middle of Lowell, Alice?
Mm-mm.
We didn't?
Nope.
Cobblestones? We never did? I know I tried to get you down there. Yeah, we never
tried.
Even when I was with Lowell's son, she was too busy. Too many kids, too many things. Just too busy. So no, Alice and I, we've lived together in Brighton. So we ate places in Brighton. We lived in Medford, right next to 93. I guess that's all of Medford, but on Forest Street in Medford. And then we lived in Melrose. So we ate a bunch of places in Melrose. And obviously, I worked in Boston. We've eaten places in Boston. Now we've been up here.
Do you remember that was like the funnest day when we first moved to Melrose?
That night, yeah.
And we went
slept
out
on the floor. Yeah.
We slept on the floor. We were just so excited. It was the first time we bought a house, either of us, or together. But certainly, it was our first house.
Alice was crazy.
Together.
We were gonna move in the next day, and she's like, "No way!" And we just
we just came right there with like a blow up mattress, and I was so excited. And we slept on the dining room floor on a blow up mattress. And we were there. We came to the house the first day. We got the keys that we signed everything. And we walked downtown with the stroller and got pizza downtown in the stroller that we ate off the floor. And I was so excited.
it was. We haven't really improved much, actually.
Our life is the same now.
Yes, exactly.
As it was
We're
then.
still floor eaters, unfortunately. All right. You ready, Allison?
Mm-hmm.
You look good in your St. Pauli girl outfit. That really was
I'm high right now, so I apologize to everyone for everything I've said this entire show.
It is another thing. Blondes are great at being high. Like you had, when we had that date and you got sloshed that early date, and attacked my friend's girlfriend, and then I had to carry you in my arms
it was
home
a problem.
with your
That's
little
a
cocktail
setting
dress.
your jacket on fire day.
Yes, that's the thing a blonde can get away with.
But yeah, I'm sorry. I've taken too much Dayquil. I'm really sick. I've taken all the Dayquil.
She just whacked out a
Tom
Bloody
was
Mary.
like, "Have a Bloody Mary. That will help." I'm not sure.
This is how I like you. Please give me a break.
But anyway, this is what you got right now.
Hi, guys. I'm not sure which Steve it is I'm talking about, but the one that said, how do you know if Kamala is going to be for middle-class people? Because she never said one way or the other. Well, what you don't say, sometimes speaks louder than what you do say.
True.
So true.
You can draw a conclusion without actually hearing it out of her mouth. Pretty simple.
Yeah. No. Obviously, I think you know. Obviously, who she's geared to, and she's geared to giving middle class money to programs and resources, just dumping entitlements onto lower classes, and giving it to the one percenters, her friends, who she hangs with, like your buddy Cuban. Who was that?
I don't know. You played the message.
I know, but it's anonymous. It sounded like Steve Merrimack, but it's not him. Okay. But it's a guy with a good, a guy with a.
Leave more messages, whoever you
Please
are.
leave more
Anonymous.
messages. You sound like somebody with a broadcast voice. To me, that's somebody with a broadcast voice.
Okay.
Listen to this.
Hi, guys. I'm not sure which Steve it is I'm talking about, but the one that said, "How do you know?"
He never loses any intonation. His voice is compressed at that same level.
So
shut up.
If you like him so much, why don't you marry
Hi,
him?
Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Steve.
It's really hard.
I'm sorry. I'm with the hot blonde at the end of 16 Candles right now, who's just cut off a chunk of her hair.
That's a different blonde in 16 Candles. Is that it?
Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
It's really hard watching NFL Red Zone and the podcast, especially the way Alice is dressed today.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Alice.
Yes.
But the reason I'm leaving this message, Tom, Rashida Jones.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm totally on board with her. She's fantastic. And I never saw Parks and Rec, not one episode. But I did see her in The Social Network, where she plays like a junior attorney. She is so beautiful in that movie. Oh, my God. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah. No, I think she's like got perfect genetics. She's absolutely just the most perfect thing.
I'm sorry that you hate
But
blondes.
that said, Alice,
Jeez.
that said, we had a big, important law.
I've been attacked today.
The lawyer
I understand you don't really like blondes now.
The lawyer whose daughter is friends with your sister, he brought his high-powered law firm into the paper when we were there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this icy 29-year-old blonde who kind of looked like you, with a little skirt on, etc., and a cute blouse, etc. And she, other than maybe the two gay guys who were out of 100 staffers in there, she was a total and utter distraction the entire time. I have no idea what anybody talked about. Nobody did. She was absolutely ridiculous.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to find out that you don't like blondes after all this time.
I love blondes. I think they're hot as hell. Believe me, that's everything. Because all that really matters is, right?
Thank you so much, everybody. If you're watching on Patreon, stay there. We're going to continue on in a Patreon show. Correct? Why are you looking at me like that?
Are you Rote right now?
I'm not Rote.
I think you're Rote.
I'm not Rote.
You're Rote. Sorry that Alice is Rote.
Thank you so much, everybody. If you want to join the Patreon, that's patreon.com/burnbarrel. Of course, if
I'll give you a hint. If you're not part of the Patreon, by the way, I tweeted about you, Alice. Check out your tweet. Check out your notifications. By the way, if you're not,
know where to find my notifications.
You're signed on to Twitter there, probably. If you're not part of
too much Dayquil.
Okay. Yes. Can you imagine if you're a part of Patreon, just how articulate she's going to be in about 10 minutes? Because she is. Right now, pedal to the metal, heading directly towards Earth.
I'm sorry. If you want to listen for free and you don't want extra content,
maybe we should just close caption you at this point, Alice. I don't think with your actual audio is. Can you just type it up and we'll just put it on the screen, like Stephen Hawking?
BurnBarrelPodcast.com.
Just shut up.